Hello and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood and you are listening to our preview of UFC 291, which is headlined by Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier 2. And this time it's for all the marbles. It's for the BMF title, the least prestigious title in the game. As per usual, I'm joined by my regular co-host Tom Ballerman. Tom, BMF title on the line here. Very important, very prestigious title. Last fought by Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz for that title. It means nothing. It's a marketing gimmick for a fight that really does not need a marketing gimmick.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the kind of nonsense they have to come up with to justify making a Gaethje Poirier main event PPV, then you know what, Joe? I'm down with it because these guys are made to be headliners. My God, what a resume on each of these men. Truly, highlight reels that are up there, moments that are up there with the greats of the sport, even though they might not have hit that very highest of peak themselves in becoming full champions. Yeah,
I mean, two guys whose career are born in the flames, forged in the fire of violence. They are of a breed that is very rare, and we will be getting into this main event. We've also got the tremendous Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira at light heavyweight. Pereira's first fight at light heavy. And some sad stuff with Tony Ferguson also fighting on this card. But we'll get to that, listeners. We'll get to that. But first of all, me and Tom are going to break down this main card, starting from the main event down. We're going to give predictions for each fight, and if we get the fighter correct, who wins, we get 1 point, and if we get the method correct as well, that's 2. 10 points on offer. Tom reclaimed the title last time out with a marvellous performance. 6 points to my meager 3. Listeners, but don't
feels right, Joe.
It may feel right to you, but we've been handing it back and forth to each other. This is like before John Jones came in and took the light heavyweight title by storm. Machida, Evans, Griffin. It's all going on between them. But let me tell you, I am John Jones, and I am taking this title back. And we will start at that main event for the BMF title, Justin Gaethje versus Dustin Poirier. The violence is guaranteed. But you know what, Tom? Let's give these men their credit. I know this sounds odd, 2 of the most intelligent fighters at lightweight.
Well, I think that's an interesting way to describe Justin Gaethje, considering I'm just fresh off watching his first fight with Dustin Poirier. In a list of adjectives I might attach to that performance with Gaethje, intelligent might not be one of them. However, there were moments in that fight where it did look like he was intelligent enough to not take the intelligent approach, which had paid off for him previously.
Yes.
If you follow me there.
I understand, yeah.
I think you do. Now, Gaethje, today, he's coming off the back of a huge win against Fiziev. Now, I put it to you, Joe. You told us he was done, washed, finished, and now you're coming back and saying one of the most intelligent fighters in the sport. Did that Fiziev performance help to persuade you?
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
for sure. Oh, for sure. I thought that performance against Fiziev was... that's the best he's had since... the Tony Ferguson fight? I thought that performance was excellent. Now, I'm not saying he was bad against Khabib. Khabib is just what he is. And Chandler, they obliged each other. But against Oliveira, I thought that was Oliveira's best performance as champion. And I got to be honest, I thought part of my issue with Gaethje was that Oliveira knocked him down and finished him in the first round. It seemed like his durability had gone. And also... he just fell into the Oliveira hurricane and just went into a fight that he probably shouldn't have gotten into. He should have put on the performance that he put on against Fiziev against Oliveira. That's what I'm thinking, which was smart, outside fighting with the occasional blitz in. And you know what? Lovely 2-shot combos with the same hand. Nice hooking combos that he threw against Fiziev. As well as, I got to say, a delicious crunching jab, which really bust up Fiziev in that fight. Just all really well measured striking. that he just completely fell apart within the Oliveira one. I mean, he was off balance so often in that Oliveira fight. He was falling over with how hard he was swinging. And I just thought that against Fiziev, that's not going to be a good recipe. And he knew that, so he changed.
Yep, credit to you, Joe. You acknowledged it. You ate your words. So we won't dwell upon your past misdemeanors. You're forgiven this time. But hopefully you'll produce some more gems for us to seize upon in future episodes. Now, look, I think the theme that you're talking about there, the growth in Gaethje, especially highlighted in his last fight, I think that's a real key to this next fight. You mentioned him fighting on the outside successfully against Fiziev. That's not what I saw when I rewatched Gaethje versus Poirier 1. Because, of course, they have fought before, and Gaethje, pretty unrecognisable from today. I think he is the more evolved fighter. Now, in that fight, Poirier was having quite a lot of joy on the outside, apart from the odd leg kick, which was clearly playing a big role in starting to kind of cut Poirier off, limit his options. Overall, though, my take on that fight was Poirier picked him apart from the outside. Sounds like you don't expect Gaethje to oblige him in the same way.
I don't expect Gaethje to have the same level of output as he did in that fight. I just don't see it as a feasible approach. And also I kind of think it does fall into Poirier, as you say. Poirier is one of these guys that like people like look at that Michael Chandler fight between Poirier and Chandler. We're like, oh, Chandler had Poirier in a lot of trouble. Remember when he had him up against the fence? Like he blitzed him and he was like throwing these long looping combos as Michael Chandler does. Yeah,
and Poirier said, and I quote, if Chandler could throw a straight shot, then he would have finished me.
Yeah, exactly. But he didn't, and instead Poirier was up against the fence, rolling with shots really well, and like Poirier does concede ground quite a bit, and he is happy to roll with shots and up against the fence. I mean, the best guy up against him, with him up against the fence, was actually, for me, Tom, Dan Hooker. I thought Hooker did a tremendous job up against the fence with Poirier, landing hooks, really pressing into him and making him uncomfortable, you know, with the variety of punches that he was landing against him. Whereas someone like Chandler, who is just such an ego fighter, will just have to meet you with his machismo in the middle of the cage. Now, if I was to say, who is going to, where is Gaethje going to fall on that line? Is he going to fall between the Michael Chandler machismo, or is it going to be the Dan Hooker machismo? For me, Tom, it'll be more towards the Dan Hooker of like backing him on his technicals, but also still wanting to meet him with a sort of bullheaded like approach. You know, I think that the frequency of the leg kicks will be a lot lower compared to that first fight as well. I think the leg kicking is a lot different now for Gaethje. How he would throw it against opponents in the past, in the clinch, up close. It's not really something he does as much now. You saw it in the Fiziev fight. It tended to be either at the beginning of combos or to intercept or to catch Fiziev in the middle of his own combinations as well. So, if I think that where is Gaethje going to fight in terms of a mental side of it, it is definitely going to be more towards the... cerebral's not the word I would ever use for Justin Gaethje in anything that he does, but it would be a cerebral version of him. I don't know if that is a fair word to say. Maybe compared to his former self, it would be.
Well, certainly. I mean, it was that first Poirier fight that set him on the path to who he's become today. He said as much himself.
The Alvarez fight as well.
Yeah, well, of course, he was coming into that Poirier fight off the back of the loss to Alvarez.
Was it that way round? I really felt like it was the...
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right.
Alvarez fight first. Yeah, and then and he put that down as to just one blip in his style, kind of the crack showing.
Yeah.
Like, surely he can just tough it out against the next opponent and they'll wilt first. Of course, it nearly happened with Poirier with that third round, you know, where he really, really had him hurt with those leg kicks and closed in for the finish, but wasn't to be. And the Poirier fight was the one that you know turned it around for him. So I think there is no comparison in that in the way that Gaethje fights today. Of course, that launched him on the path to, well, eventually vanquishing Tony Ferguson and cementing himself as this kind of gold star of the division. Yeah, I mean, then you've got to look over at Poirier, Joe. Has he evolved since that last fight?
Evolved or refined? I think that's maybe more what I would look at. Like, I think he's refined a lot of things, but he's still... That's the thing, is that when you look at his, like, earlier fights, he's doing a lot of the things that he does now, but a lot sloppier. Like, you know, alright, the famous Dustin Poirier combination is the 1-2 that he throws, where he then steps through and then throws the 2 then from the opposite hand. So basically switches stances in the middle of throwing the combo. And you can see him doing that in his earlier fights, but it's just not as good. It's not as slick. It's not as well hidden. He doesn't set anything up from there. He doesn't set up anything with it. He just kind of like blitzes into it because, like, I've got this really good idea, but he's got no sort of, like, how can I say this? But, like, he's got, like, no sort of muscle memory of how to really use it properly. So that's what I think of when it comes to Poirier. It's like, it's the same tools that he's always had, but just incrementally better each time. Because, again, like, even the defensive side of it, you know, he uses that weird sort of, like, high guard where, like, his hands are kind of, like, covering his face, but his elbows are up as well. So he gives you an angle to land on him, but it's nowhere clean. You know, it's just like, you could land to the body if you're really going to commit to that. But guys just don't. Like, he's fought a lot of headhunters, so he tend not to. So he's got this really awkward defense as well. And the fact that he will roll with them and step back as well, you know, causing you to sort of like be out of range. He's very good at sort of like hiding like little range shifts in attack and defense, you know, and moving his head back, you know, making you think he's moving backwards when in fact he's actually just staying in the same place and letting you sort of crash into him.
Waiting for that kind of that lead right hook counter that he's so good at. Yeah,
and he's so good at hiding that as well. You know, he's so good at like bringing that up around your shoulder. Like if you throw like a left jab, that right hook, then he can slip and then bring the right hook over, and it's basically hidden. All right, how can you say this then? Like, when I was thinking about this before, and I asked you of like, what do you think is like Gaethje's best finish? Let me ask you then about Poirier, which is, what is his best performance then? Like, what is the one where you look at and go like, that is the perfect Dustin Poirier performance?
Well, yeah, in this whole question about evolution and where they've gone since their first fight, I actually took the line on Poirier that fight with Gaethje cemented him as kind of the creme de la creme, but, you know, like, just missing that final step. I think following that fight, of course, you have to look then his finish over Alvarez, which, of course, Gaethje succumbed to Alvarez, but then it's the fight after that. It's when Max Holloway, all-conquering featherweight, comes up to meet Poirier, the test in the lightweight division, with a view to Holloway going on to, you know, unify the lightweight belt against Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, what a timeline that is. We don't know anything more about that because Poirier shut him down, and it was a masterful performance in that he met Holloway at his own game and answered the question forever where Max belongs in terms of what his limits are. You know, nobody says, well, what about Max Holloway taking a run at lightweight?
Why?
That question was answered.
Why? Because you think he's too small?
I think that's effectively what Poirier showed us.
I don't see that. What I saw is I actually think Poirier is just a really difficult matchup for Max Holloway. Like, there's still guys at lightweight now that I look at and I'm like, I'd love to see Max Holloway face these guys. Like, you know, Max Holloway versus, like, I don't know, Fiziev. I'd watch the shit out of that. That sounds great. You know?
Whoa. I'm not saying there aren't fun fights for Max Holloway at lightweight. I'm saying that as a title contender, that answered my
question. Oh, right. You say he's too small to be a title contender. Yeah, maybe just about.
Joe, yeah. I'm sorry. If you can't go with Poirier,
Wait, so hold on. So that means if you lose to Poirier, that means you can't be a title contender.
Yeah, if you lose to Poirier, I don't want to see you fight Makhachev or Khabib or whoever the Dagestani at the top of the division might be at that time.
Right, fair enough. Yeah.
Because I'm saying that's the fight that Matt Holloway wanted. Like, Poirier is a great fight for him, in my opinion, when you compare it with the other matchups that would have been there and are there at lightweight. You want to see striker versus striker, and that's what... I mean... it's not like when Max needed to go to wrestling to beat Yair. That's not how Poirier beat Max. All right, he didn't actually just kind of use his physical advantages to control Max in a position where Max is uncomfortable. He met him toe to toe and outstruck him. Well, he didn't outstrike him actually, but he landed superior damage on him. I think you can see where I'm getting.
Yeah, I see where you're getting at. It did put a capper on it. But let's talk about these two again, Poirier and Gaethje. Tom, let's just go straight into it. Give me what you think is going to happen in this fight now today. Like, when you've taken the time apart that they've had, the 5 years that they've been separated, what are you feeling about this fight?
Well, what I didn't quite round off there was that I feel like Poirier has kind of... He had already reached the point that he's at now. I don't feel that he's more refined than he was in the first Gaethje fight. Yes, I do. I don't think he's a better fighter than he was when he first fought Justin Gaethje.
I also think that really between the Khabib fight and the Oliveira fight, he fought Conor. He went to war with Dan Hooker.
Yeah, he absolutely went to war and took a beating himself in that fight.
Yeah,
in 3 rounds.
5.
Oh, 5 rounds. Sorry, it was a 5 round. It was a headline fight. Yeah, and then of course the Conor McGregor freak show fight. I credit him, and I don't want to take it away from him now. Yeah. But obviously, it's hard not to. When we just look at what Conor McGregor represents today. Yes. And he certainly doesn't represent a fighter at the top of the sport.
I know.
And then, the Charles Oliveira display, Joe, it was very poor.
Yeah. He lost it in that second round. He got finished in the third and he lost it in the second. And then...
Yeah, mentally he was gone. He did not want anything to do with Charles Oliveira on the mat. Mentally he was beaten. And that's not something you can say for Poirier often. Now, obviously, Chandler then put him in another place where he was mentally, he was challenged. He could have quit. He could have gone down in that fight. But after an absolute war, he managed to get the rear naked choke over Chandler in the third. Yeah. But that was a bloodbath, Joe.
Yeah.
Now, I want to compare that with where Gaethje's at now. I think that Gaethje has closed the distance that Poirier showed was between them in their first matchup. Yeah. I think it's more intriguing this time round.
Yeah, I think so as well. I really think so as well.
Now, Joe, tell me why you're picking Dustin Poirier.
Who said that I'm picking Dustin Poirier? I've not made.
Come on, out with it.
I'm not giving my pick yet. But I have picked Dustin Poirier to win this fight by knockout. I really do. I really think so. I just think this is such a barbaric matchup for both of them that I actually don't see this going to a decision for either guy. It was who's going to win by knockout. I leant towards Poirier just because this makes it sound bad, but Gaethje's got obviously very heavy hands. My favourite Gaethje finish, by the way, is the Barbosa one, because it's Barbosa's backing up in retreat in defence, and Gaethje catches him with a reaching hook, and he flatlines him. It was a terrible combo. It was a terrible technique. There's no way that he should be finishing like that, and he goes as stiff as a board. So he's got heavy hands.
Wasn't it a big looping hook that put James Vick away before that as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, hilarious finish where Hook just deflated, looked like he physically deflated.
Vick, yeah.
Yeah. But Poirier, I just think his heavy hands, I just think this really quite attritional, and I think it will just wear on Gaethje, and I am expecting a late finish, maybe the fourth. There is something that's holding me back though, which is that this fight is at elevation, so I'm expecting these guys to be gassed within probably 2 rounds or so, which does slightly impact on my pick, but I am going by Poirier. I am going by knockout. Either way, whoever wins this will be going on to then lose to Islam Makhachev.
Is this for a title matchup?
Probably.
It would have to be a sensational display for me to justify a title fight.
No, they will. They will get a title fight off of this.
Yeah.
There's
no. I'm just saying, like
in your realm. And
that's what counts. As the listeners know. Now, look, Joe, I've picked Justin Gaethje.
Yeah. How?
By knockout.
Oh, I knew it. How could you not?
Joe, that performance against Fiziev, that was a performance for the ages. That was a statement to the critics, you chief among them. He hung with the younger, more dynamic striker, and he put the work on him, Joe.
Yeah,
he put the work. Of course, signature absorption of damage was present in the fight for Gaethje.
Yes.
He can still do it, Joe. He can still take that punishment, and he will take a little bit from Poirier. But I think he doesn't need to fix that much, and he has made those improvements to actually have the leap over Poirier. I don't expect any more, I'll eat three to get one of mine off.
No.
I don't expect any more. I noticed a lot in the first fight. He was kind of walking in, very high guard.
Yes.
And he was so comfortable in that, like almost like a rope-a-dope. And Poirier's just coming around the side with a hook. Then he's digging an uppercut to the body. He's just having fun out there. And then Gaethje will break out of defense and throw some big, horrible looping hook, Joe.
Yeah.
It was a terrible display, and he still took Poirier into dark waters. I expect to see low kick heavy game, very calculated explosions from Gaethje, and I don't expect to see him sitting in the pocket much. I think the tools are there for Gaethje to win this fight.
Who was the last man to knock out Dustin Poirier? And what year? Give me a guess.
I know this.
You do know this. It's the answer to this question every single time.
Because this is a popular... Yeah, it's the same. It's Michael Johnson, Joe. But I don't know when.
2016. 2016.
So it's a hell of a pick, is what you're saying, Joe.
Yeah.
It's the pick of champs that I've made right there.
I mean, it's a bold pick, but to be honest, I think picking knockout is a bold one for this card anyway. I just think that these guys, they're so talented in this sort of fight that they can roll that type of damage now, particularly Gaethje, that whether they can actually get the finish. This could go to a 5-round decision. Like, it can go that way, but I just kind of hope it doesn't. I want to have like an exclamation mark.
If it goes 5 rounds, does that mean Poirier wins?
I wonder if Poirier might wrestle as well. I wonder if he'll break out a bit of grappling as well, just to like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the myth of Gaethje's wrestling has been well and truly.
Oh my good lord! Like
battered into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
The D division. What, Division 2 was it?
Division 1, wasn't he?
Division 1.
Yeah. Says a lot, doesn't it? Anyway, Tom, let's move on from that. Let's move on to the co-main event. Jan Blachowicz welcomes Alex Pereira into his first fight at light heavyweight. With what is, I guess, is a number 1 contender fight. Like, again, that's the only way I can look at this. We don't have a champion at light heavyweight. Jamal Hill has vacated the belt due to an injury.
Credit to him, yeah.
He's been assured that he'll be getting a title shot after that. Not entirely sure why. It's not like Prohashka where he actually defended the belt. But, fair play to you, mate. I respect that. Really, we have the chance here for a bit of a light heavyweight tournament, don't you see?
Can I just interject there, Joe? I like that. I think if you're the champion, you're going to be out for a while. I think if you have the, self-assuredness to set that title aside and say, all right, guys, I don't want to hold up the division. I think when you come back, you deserve a title shot.
He was an interim champion.
I like that as a precedent. Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, I don't mean too rude. He's a talented fighter. I did pick him to beat Glover Teixeira. You did pick Glover to beat him, so I just want that out there. And you thought I was a madman for doing that. But anyway, let's talk about this matchup here. Jan Blachowicz versus Alex Pereira. Now, Tom, is there a way that anyone can convince me that this is not going to be a stalemate, boring fight of two guys on the outside picking at each other? because I think that is there's big potential for that to happen in this fight.
What about if we say that Blachowicz wants to work himself into clinch exchanges and get a takedown on Pereira?
Yeah, I think he can do that, but he has to punch his way into that, so I guess that is where the carnage would then ensue. Pereira must also be aware that is what's going to happen with Blachowicz.
One would hope.
Yeah, having seen Blachowicz versus Adesanya, where Blachowicz won rounds 4 and 5 in that title fight due to the takedown. However, Adesanya is not on the size of Pereira.
No, and let's also be clear that, Blachowicz kind of disguised that. He didn't go chasing takedowns early on.
No, he didn't.
He kind of...
He outstruck Izzy.
Toe-to-toe, really. Yeah.
He outstruck him. Like, he had a really good game plan for that fight. That's the thing.
It was a power differential thing, though, Joe. Much like, for me, Poirier-Holloway was.
You know what? No, I disagree with that. I actually think Jan actually beat him on the technicals as well, because he had such a really clever response to Izzy's feinting game, which was any time that Izzy would throw a feint and Jan would retreat or whatever, he'd show him the exact same thing. So it's like if he feinted the left hip to go for like a left high kick, he retreated in the same way as if he feinted a right straight. So it's like he had only like one small thing to either aim for, and so that when Izzy started to throw, Jan could then counter from there. So it's just basically set Izzy up to only be able to throw at certain targets at certain timings. It's really, really clever from Jan. So he is a smart fighter. He's a very powerful fighter.
Possibly.
Yeah, a very powerful fighter. As we like to reference the shark bite on Dom Reyes' abdomen from their title fight. And then there's also like the mentals of it, of like, he's coming up to my division. I've got to vanquish this guy and get myself a title shot and get myself back in there. Whereas Pereira is basically assured another title fight if he beats Blachowicz, much in the same way when he beat Strickland. So I'm wondering what the psychology of this is for Jan as well, of like, I've got to like make sure I'm not going to become a highlight reel for this guy. I've got to make this disgusting for this guy. Yeah, of course. I'm not going to be some easy walkover.
Certainly, Sean Strickland is out there as a warning to any future matchups for Pereira. You don't want to be made to look like that, although Strickland has since overcome that, of course, and looks to be headed for his own middleweight matchup.
Madness, he's got a title fight, isn't he?
I
know.
Yep.
It's going to be terrible.
But I mean, that's what can happen if you stay active, Joe. So yeah. That's. I'm not mad. I'm not mad about that. Are you mad?
I'm not mad. I'm just thinking it's not a particularly enticing fight, in my opinion.
Well, you weren't excited about the trash talk between DDP and Israel. So how about the Strickland brand of trash talk?
Oh God!
Is he winning you over, Joe? Is there a chink in your hard exterior? Is there a warm spot?
No,
is it coming?
Strickland's one of these guys where I can't ever like fully dislike the guy, because it's like I look at him and I just see like a complete and utter fuck up in life who's managed to like turn it round. And has openly admitted he had a terrible upbringing that was like going to set you up for prison, basically. And he's managed to like actually give himself a bit of like a solid footing. So I respect him for that. But everything else, I do find him massively cringe in the way that everyone else seems to find Adesanya. Whereas I actually find Adesanya cringe, but in a funny way, for the most part. Anyway, let's actually go back to the actual matchup that we're supposed to be talking about here. Pereira versus Blachowicz. Essentially, this is a fight of left hooks. And are they just going to hook each other off and see what's going to happen from there? Because I don't know if that's a sensible game plan for Blachowicz.
Yeah, I think Blachowicz is well aware of that. You don't trade left hooks with a kickboxer. So I don't see it like that. I don't think that you can draw too much from the Adesanya fight, because actually, let's be real, Pereira does have a different style. It's not the same.
No,
he stays. He's not weaving in and out of distance as much as Izzy. He's not the kind of controlling the range in the same way. He has constant forward pressure. Yeah, And whereas, of course, Israel likes to fight more counter-striking style.
Yeah, and Pereira also gets his reads off of actual shots. Like, he'll throw a jab out there and see what happens from there, whereas Adesanya's more feint heavy.
Feints, yeah.
Yeah, the feints is a very feint heavy game. So, yeah.
I mean, but Pereira is more fun, Joe. He's more fun. He's more fun to watch than Izzy.
Do you think so?
I do think so. I think his style invites more interesting fights, and I think he's more hittable, of course, and that obviously.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Yes.
Right.
And that's going to create moments, and that's going to draw people in, and that's also going to create opportunities for him as well. I mean, we saw that in the way that he beat Adesanya,
and the way he lost. Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah.
So I think there is capacity for this to be a fun fight, and I don't think the issue will be with Pereira in whether it's going to be fun or not. It's about Jan and about how nervous he is about being, as you say, made into a meme.
What do you think the chances are of that happening, Tom?
Well, I know that you're really hot on Pereira, but I think there are some challenges here with Blachowicz. I think Blachowicz can hurt him, actually.
Mm. Yeah, I agree.
I
agree.
I do think that, and we have to acknowledge also, the credentials of Blachowicz in that he does have those other tools, like he showed. He is that wily dog. I think if Pereira were to, let's say that he backs Blachowicz up to the cage, he's there, but he's not. You can't really hit him, and he's starting to put the work on Jan. Mm. I do think Jan can wrap up a clinch. I do think he can duck down and shoot a single leg. I do think that he can pivot and get kicks off. I do think that he can work also Pereira's lead leg. Mm. I think he can cause some big problems for Pereira, but I'm sensing that you're more inclined to see Pereira here as the favourite.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pereira by decision. I agree with actually everything.
Just outpointing him?
Outpointing him. And also, I just think Jan is just a bit too slow. I think he's a bit too slow to be able to damage Pereira in the same way that Adesanya is.
Deceptively quick, I would suggest to you. Jan Blachowicz got some pop on those shots.
No, he has got pop.
He is 40 years old, and he's fighting at altitude. I'd say he's deceptively quick. He's awkward, but deceptively quick.
I think it will be competitive for about the first round. And then I expect Pereira to take over, and actually, if anything, sort of cruise to a decision victory. I think that is the most likely outcome. Tom, tell me why you've picked Jan Blachowicz by submission.
Joe, I'm seeing a TKO ground and pound.
No way, really?
Yeah, really. Now I will acknowledge that I had thought until about 5 seconds ago I was still thinking this was a 5-round fight, and that might have influenced that choice. But yeah, Joe, I think he hurts him. I think he takes him down. I think he gets to mount quite easily, and he pounds him out.
You're not very good at this how long are the fights thing, because that's what cost you with the
it's elementary, Joe. Yeah, it is elementary. But I'm more a big picture kind of guy. I don't focus on these.
You like the big canvas. Details. Yeah, you like the big canvas, and they should all be allowed to paint on that canvas of 5 rounds.
I don't trouble myself with these small facts, small details.
Wow, Jan Blachowicz by ground and pound TKO.
That's a wild pick.
I love it. I love it. I think that's a great pick, to be honest. Let's talk about this fight. Now, my word, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus your boy, Michel Pereira. Don't try and deny it. You love Michel Pereira.
Oh, yeah. Big fan.
You liked him when he got boring.
5-fight streak, Joe.
Yeah,
the man is coming.
He got boring, though.
Absolutely is not boring. He is a man who has refined and evolved his game since some hilariously ridiculous decision. Diego Sanchez, illegal knee disqualification. That is
the Tristan Connolly one.
There. Tristan Connolly was one of the most appalling things I've ever seen, losing that fight. But he's tidied it up, Joe, and he's coming off wins over Chaos Williams, Andre Fialho, Pons, of course, last time out. He won that fight for me.
Why do I have in my head that he fought Luque, but he's not fought Luque, has he?
Nico Price cut price Luque Nico Price.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, it's an easy mistake.
Off brand, home brand.
Mum, I want Vicente Luque. We got Vicente Luque at home, and it's Nico Price. Like, that's the... yeah, no.
I'm hot on Pereira, Joe, and I'm disappointed in you for not recognising it. The man is, he's talented, he's athletic, he's fun, and he's been going places. But this is the big test now. Stephen Thompson.
I mean,
all right, 40-year-old Stephen Thompson, but just look at that last display.
Tell me that this is not a perfect Stephen Wonderboy Thompson opponent. Guy who's like wanting to exchange on the feet. He's going to get a bit headhunty. Yeah,
overreaches all the time. Loves to get countered and chinned.
Bro,
and laugh it off.
Do I even need to tell you that I've picked Stephen Thompson by decision here? Like, it's just going to be so headhunty, and your man will not have read his notes and gone to the body at all. Like, watch what Jeff Neal did and just do the opposite. Hit him into the body. Why don't they ever hit him to the body? Like, it's madness. Like, they just never do it.
Once you add in the altitude. And just he is absurdly built for his, I don't know.
Oh,
just, everything is explosive. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You put it all together and you just see Thompson styling on him, Joe. Yeah. Of course, I've gone for a decision win here as well.
There's not much we can really say about it. I mean, Pereira, as you said, he cuts a lot to get to 170 as well, and that is just like a pile of muscle with some fireworks on there. It's going to look amazing for 3 minutes, and then, woo! It's going to fall off a cliff.
I will say this, Joe. The last time I think we were as unanimous and decisive in our pick.
You know what's coming, yeah.
Was Dricus du Plessis versus Robert Whittaker, where the narrative was written, we didn't bother discussing it, and then we were both promptly humiliated. So I welcome that. Go and get it, Michel Pereira. I tell you what, Joe, a win for him, 6 in a row. That would be Wonderboy, ranked at welterweight. He can pick his next fight after that.
Yeah. He deserves a good fight after that, like a good name. From there, it'll probably be Bilal Muhammad. Probably that will be the treat that he'll get from that if he beats Wonderboy Thompson. I know who I'm picking in that fight.
Forget the name.
No, remember the name, my boy. Now, oh God, let's forget this. Tom, what do we even talk about here? Tony Ferguson versus Bobby Green. I mean, the podcast that we've named after Tony Ferguson, we don't even want to talk about him. Like, this is hard times, brother. And he's facing Bobby Green. I mean, Tony Ferguson's last fight was the one against Nate Diaz, where he had to step in on a day's notice because the card got all reshuffled because Khamzat missed weight. Facing Bobby Green. I mean, Bobby Green's so much quicker than Tony Ferguson. And oh God, man, this is sad to even talk about, isn't it? Like, what do we even talk about on the technical style of it? It's just like, can Tony Ferguson survive 3 rounds against Bobby Green? Is that what we're going to
do? You want that? Is that good?
You want it to get finished?
15 minutes of, like, called off on humanitarian grounds. I don't know. Like, aren't we giving Tony some kind of like moment to retire on, which isn't him getting worked for?
He should have retired
minutes?
after the Nate Diaz fight. That was the moment. 2 legends doing it, getting in there.
He didn't, Joe. Let me tell you, he did not get the memo. Do you remember the post-fight interview with Tony Ferguson?
That was mad.
That was emotional. That was hard.
Yes.
And we do know, of course, since then he's had issues outside the cage, drink driving, I believe.
Flipped his truck.
Yeah.
Not good.
Out witch hunting. And
is he doing more of that? Oh my God. Oh God. Oh God. Yeah, Bobby Green, please be merciful.
I just don't know what to do with this. It's a real bum note. It's really sad. Just give Tony another job. Just employ him within the UFC.
Yeah,
professional meme
consultant.
Not like fighting.
Yeah. Just the thing is like as well as that, like this fight, however many years ago, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you'd be like, hell yes, give me some of this. And I love Bobby Green now. He's great to watch. The shoulder rolls, we love it. The hands low, we love it. And there's nothing, I don't want to talk about it because Tony Ferguson is that sad of a carcass that I just don't want to engage with what he's going to put out there. So Bobby Green by decision, I'm afraid, for me, Tom.
Yeah, steepest come off since Renan Barão, I think, Tony here.
Worse.
Yeah, I mean, of course it is, because it's been played like Renan Barão was promptly shuffled off back to Brazil or wherever, you know.
Off you go to jungle fight sort of thing, yeah, like that.
Yeah. And as far as I know, he's still there. I've heard nothing more. But Tony, it's broadcast on PPVs for us all to see. Since that Gaethje beat down, we all remember it. It's immortal. You know, at one of those fights, UFC 249 in COVID. They just keep sticking him on the pay-per-view to get mashed. Charles Oliveira, Beneil Dariush, Michael Chandler, and, well, it wasn't a mashing against Nate Diaz, but wow, Tony had declined dramatically just since the Chandler fight.
I know, his physicality was just gone, wasn't it?
It was tragic. It was Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz vibes.
Oh my god!
And I'm not talking about their first fight. I'm
third
talking
one.
About,
yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. So of course I picked Bobby Green, and I went for a decision.
Decision.
Yeah, decision. I went for just based off Bobby Green's style, really.
Yeah, and the fact he can walk. Like, I mean, is this like actually? Is this the worst a fighter will look in a major MMA fight since Chuck Tito 3? I mean, I can't think of many worse.
It was disguised in the Diaz fight, in that he was fighting Nate Diaz,
who's a meme fighter.
It might be later Bear, Joe. I'm very sad about it. If by some freakish, like, who knows?
If he
like
wins,
Tony,
that's a terrible idea.
Like, yeah, somebody should be like, "Congrats, Tony! Thanks for a great career." You know, Dana should just step in right there.
Yeah,
and just, you know, golden handshake or golden parachute, or whatever you call it when you retire somebody with money.
Yeah,
like you know, with a name tag for his new meme consultancy job. Just no more.
Yeah,
no more. It's really sad.
Yeah, I just don't want to. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't want to see him continually just get punished, and a win for him might be the worst thing that happens to him, because he's like, I still got it, and it's just like, you don't have it anymore, Tony.
No, but we know that we got to take this out of Tony's hands.
Yeah,
and I don't mean you and I here at All I'm Talking Brother, but I mean we, the global community.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Well, here's my other issue as well. Is
Joe,
that,
we owe these guys. We owe it to Tony. He paid the price.
Yeah,
he gave us what we wanted to see. We have to acknowledge that. And for him to just be cast aside as a joke and just left to self-harm and likely the harm of others and just wash our hands of it, that's not enough. So find him a home in the UFC. Own your children.
Yeah.
And don't let them fight on live TV for money.
No. That's where I always sort of like disagree with like that. Well, we can't tell them what to do, you know, if they want to do it. It's just like, no, you quite literally can say, I'm not going to promote your fight. You should not be fighting anymore. You know, and if they're that adamant, then you just let them go. Like, just let them go. And if they really want to do that to themselves, whatever. Now, let's talk about this fight, Tom. I'm moderately intrigued by this fight. Michael Chiesa is back against Kevin Holland. Where has Chiesa been? Like, what's he been up to? Like, his last fight was the Sean Brady one, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a humbling, Joe. Let's remember that he was beaten, you know, comfortably at his own game.
Yeah, he was left behind.
And yeah, really, that drew a line under Chiesa. So I don't blame him for taking some time out. Obviously, I quite like listening to him and Felder. I actually prefer him of the two, and I know you're quite a fan of Paul Felder. So
yeah, I like Felder.
Yeah,
I like listening to Chiesa though. I think he's a really interesting guy when it comes to talking about fights.
Absolutely. So, you know, he is a man who definitely has a future outside of what happens in the octagon. But I believe he is still ranked at welterweight.
Is he? No.
Yeah, he's ranked 12, Joe. He's ranked 12.
Is Kevin Holland ranked?
Kevin Holland is not. He's not ranked at welterweight.
That's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Kevin, let's talk about him for a moment. He did just come off with that big KO win. That was another narrative we were convinced of in the Ponzinibbio fight. We saw that coming. But he had also kind of reached his own ceiling. First with Marvin Vettori suffocating him in the wrestling department.
Yeah.
Derek Brunson, I'd argue, before that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Stephen Thompson, rolling back the years.
Yeah.
To humble Holland, really.
I know, but Holland was in positions where he could have done significant damage in that fight, where he took Thompson down and he was just like, nah, let's stand up. Like, literally standing up and walking away. And, like, I hate on, who's your man who just lost to Ige? Nate Landwehr for doing that against David Onama. And I hate on Kevin Holland for doing that. It's like, you're in a great position, man. Get some damage off. Win this fight. Like, that tells me you're not really that bothered about winning. Then it's like, why am I watching you at this stage? Like, there's the competition's not there. I'm not here to watch an exhibition between two guys. I want to see two guys going in there to compete. And you're telling me you don't want to compete at that stage. So that's what I find a bit irritating about Kevin Holland in that instance. The other side is that I think he's actually kind of a fascinating fighter to watch on the feet. Throws weird stuff out there, like jumping hammer fists. He's done that in the past, just like really lovely long kicks as well. Like, he's really good at that sort of side of things. Whereas Michael Chiesa is up in your grill. I'm taking you down. I'm smashing you into the mat. Let's get our wrestling on. Get your wrestling shoes on, buddy, because you are going for a ride. And let's think about this. Kevin Holland fought at middleweight. He's got extremely long arms. Yeah, and he got mashed by some middleweight wrestlers. Is that going to translate a lot better here, Tom, against a welterweight wrestler instead?
Well, I think that's where the intrigue comes for you, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah.
Because there are those questions. Where is Chiesa at in his career? And has Kevin Holland both evolved from frankly, a massive derailment of his train against Derek Brunson and then Vettori, and is welterweight the division for him to show that off in? I have gone back and forth on this one. I got to say, it wasn't clear cut for me, but ultimately, the way he was neutralized by Derek Brunson. Now, that Derek Brunson losing to Derek Brunson just 2 years ago, that's not aged well, Joe. That's not aged well.
I don't know, man. I thought Brunson wasn't that far away from getting to a title shot until he had the Cannonier fight. Yeah,
absolutely.
So,
and then suddenly we realised he had dropped off big time as well, and needed to be sheltered and prevented from fighting.
And now he's got another fight against Roman Dolidze. It's just like, oh god, Derek, mate.
So I picked Michael Chiesa.
Yep.
But I prefer Holland to win.
Yeah, same position for me. I've picked Michael Chiesa by decision. I presume you picked decision as well.
Yeah, it's
flying
knee.
Yeah. Yeah, Michael Chiesa by decision. It's the only choice I see here. But again, I would prefer a Kevin Holland freak knockout to happen. I just don't see it happening.
Does it need to be a freak knockout, though? You did mention, like Holland has got John Jones' reach. He's got beautiful straight shots, beautiful jab.
Sniping from the outside, yeah. He could finish
from the
Chiesa.
outside. He's fantastic. And, he did show... Well, I'm not going to say... Well, no,
he got overwhelmed in the end by Wonderboy, but at the start he did well. And he was damaging him, yeah.
And he belongs in a fight with Wonderboy. And, yeah, of course, the Khamzat fight went the way it had to go.
Yeah.
But Kevin can sprawl.
Yes.
Kevin can wrestle a little bit.
On the latest Embedded, it opens with Kevin Holland practicing sprawls. I was just like, okay, well, at least he knows how to butter his bread on this one. Like, it's... yeah, he's going to be doing that a lot. I wonder actually if Chiesa's going to be able to, like, if he fails on a couple shots, whether he's actually going to be able to get anything going from there. Like, if he goes in there and the first two shots fail and he's struggling to get a bit of breath in there, and then Holland starts walking you down, and that jab, he just starts sticking that jab in your face. But he leaves the jab out there, blinds you a bit, and then the right comes right behind it. Woo! Could be a rough night for Chiesa.
And it really could go that way. That is definitely the intrigue for me as well. That's what I want to see from Holland. I don't want to see actually wild, unorthodox things. I don't want to see any kicks for the first 3 minutes.
No,
at least
first round.
No, I really don't.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Yeah. And if he's able to do that, to fight disciplined, he can go there and he might even put away Michael Chiesa. And what a statement that would be.
Yeah. Game straight into that rankings then. Now, Tom, we were going to talk about the prelims, but we're running out of time here. We've got to get to the fight news. But we'll talk about the prelims next week on our review episode, listeners. But me and Tom are going to talk...
But just briefly, Joe, want to watch? No, just briefly, want to watch for you in this?
You know what? I'm going to say Matthew Semmelsberger versus Uros Medic. Medic had a really nice finish in his last fight. And Semmelsberger finished Jake Matthews, who's also... No, he won by decision. And it was quite a clear decision win, actually, over Jake Matthews.
Yeah.
But it was very impressive, though. Very, very impressive.
And surprised at that, because Matthews had looked so good previous to that. So, yeah, get Semmelsberger on the prelims.
Yeah, man.
I'm starting a petition, Joe.
Yeah. Fair enough.
For me,
sorry,
it's just a quick nod to Roman Kopylov. Always fun, Joe. Always fun. I'll say no more. Watch that fight. Him and Claudio Ribeiro. That's going to be fun.
Yes, indeed. Right. Let's talk about the news, Tom. Let's talk about UFC London that happened over the weekend. Pretty uninspiring card, I've got to say. Wasn't great. But a couple really nice high moments, including Tom Aspinall knocking out Marcin Tybura in 1 minute 20. We learned nothing about Tom Aspinall, really, except that he is of the elite at heavyweight.
Yeah, people really seized on it. They ran wild with this display from Aspinall. Of course, as a big statement, being away from injury, the nerves, everything like that. I don't know. If it was any other weight class, I don't think it would have been called off. Yeah, I do feel like that. It was a kind of glancing blow that he landed on Tybura, which dropped him, and definitely Tybura was in danger, but he was defending intelligently. I wasn't unhappy with the stoppage.
No. I know what you mean. I could have seen another minute. Or not a minute, another couple of shots.
That's a blood sport. 1 minute of Tybura just getting pounded out. That's what you want. A whole minute of just thunderous blows, Len. Yeah. Why do you hate Martin Tybura?
No,
but Joe, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know
what I'm saying. Any other division, and it doesn't get stopped there.
No.
So I don't feel like we learnt a lot, but I'm very happy anyway that Tom had that performance. Yeah, I liked from this card Paul Craig at middleweight.
You liking that?
I mean, Joe, he looked massive. I'll say that, and that played a role in him putting away Muniz.
It's calling out Bo Nickel. I like it. Bo Nickel against a man of that size. I mean, I would still expect Nickel to win, but
would you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'd pick Nickel easily, really. But I think it'd be I think it'd be a test. I think it'd be a real test.
You can't see Bo Nickel getting caught from the bottom.
No,
you can't see it.
No,
you can't see him overconfident. It's just that's not possible.
No, I mean,
Joe,
it is possible.
Let me tell you now, Joe. You're not the first one to think like that. Let me just remind you of some other people who have thought like that. Nikita Krylov. He thought
Magomed
no way
Ankalaev. Jamal Hill.
Exactly. Big names who would be as big a favourite over Paul Craig, and he has humbled them. That's fun, Joe. If we're going to start testing Bo Nickel, that is fun.
Fair enough. Nathaniel Wood versus Andre Touchy-Feely. What a fight that was. What a fight. Goes into my top 5 of the year. That was absolutely tremendous. Loved that fight. And Nathaniel Wood looks really good at featherweight. I'm really liking him at featherweight. The speediness of him. You know what? Get him in there with a ranked guy. I'm looking at Dan Ige. Maybe at 12. I think that'd be a really good matchup. If he gets past Ige. We got a new one. We got a new British fighter up there. I'm liking it. Right.
Yeah, I sign off on that, Joe. That's great.
Yeah, it's great. Love it. Right. Abu Dhabi has been set, Tom. Main event, co-main event set. Main event, the rematch, Islam Makhachev versus Charles Oliveira. When there were murmurings of it, I was like, I'm not really into this. I'm not really loving that. And then when it was announced, I ripped my shirt off. I'm like, let's go! Let's go, Charles. Get revenge. Do it for us. These nerds that want to talk about you online because we love you so much, Charles. Like, do it for us. And beat Islam Makhachev. Like, I am so hyped for that fight. I mean, if Makhachev beats him, I'll be delighted as well because Volkanovski Makhachev 2 is sat right there. And, you know, who wouldn't want to see Makhachev versus the best fighter to ever live? So, you know, I think that is... It's all tantalising and brilliant, isn't it, Tom? And it's all so open now because Oliveira's there. And you know what? I know we had to sacrifice Beneil Dariush, but fuck me, was it worth it?
Well, Joe, I like your take. It has stirred me a little bit because the first fight, it does live long in the memory for me. Makhachev Oliveira. I don't know if I've seen enough. No,
we haven't.
I don't know. No, you know that.
We haven't.
And I don't know if the questions are there for me.
Yeah.
It would be a shock. It would be a big upset for me if Oliveira could go and turn it around. I mean, he's done it. He's done it before. It's shocking that he became the man he is today.
Yeah.
So I don't take that possibility away. But it would. I mean, that would blow my mind. Let me be frank.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, and then the co-main event, Khamzat Chimaev is finally back and he faces Paulo Costa. On a scale of 1 to incredibly erect, how do you feel about that fight there, Tom?
Joe, it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
I
That is
can't
an
wait.
absolute incredible fight.
Perfect.
Absolutely. I mean, that's perfect. That is of the kind of like BMF brand of fights.
Yeah.
Like, let's just say like big profiles, but who cares about the rankings type fights?
Yeah.
Just like shows, spectacles. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy the UFC signed Costa to a nice long contract.
Yes.
And saw his value. I'm so happy about that.
And I'm glad they didn't go with, because apparently it was potentially Chimaev versus Cannonier. I'm glad they went with Costa. Ugh. It's so much funnier. This is a much funnier fight, let's be honest. This has got so much more potential for madness to happen. And I like Jared Cannonier. I think he's a good fighter and all, but it just doesn't have the zhuzh that this does. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week to review this card. You can contact us at holdonbrothers69@gmail.com. Leave a like, subscribe, comment underneath, and we will get back to you either in the comments or on the show if it's a particularly good comment or question. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everybody.
And listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back next week. Praise the Fight Lords indeed.
Bye-bye.